Good afternoon, classmates. I want to talk to you today about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, Down syndrome, trisomy 21. Now, most of us have probably know someone or maybe have met someone who has Down syndrome in your lifetime, but what you may not know is that there are actually 3 different types of Down syndrome, genetically speaking. Down syndrome is identified as a triplication of genetic material found on that 21st chromosome. What that means is everyone is born with a 21st chromosome, and you have 2 pieces. People who are born with Down syndrome have just a teeny little extra bit of genetic material off to the side, and that little tiny bit of extra genetic material actually forms a completely different genetic makeup. Through the years, there have been many new discoveries made in the fields of genetics with Down syndrome, and I could talk about that subject all day long, but all I really want to talk to you today about is just those 3 types of Down syndrome. Medical News Today published an article in 2021 talking about the 3 types of Down syndrome: mosaic Down syndrome, translocation Down syndrome, and trisomy 21, also kind of known as just generic Down syndrome. To understand these types, you must first understand how a baby is formed. Now, you're all probably thinking, we're all grown-ups, we know how a baby's made. But what you might not know is the genetic cell division aspect of making a baby. So sperm meets egg, makes a cell. That cell is going to split. Those 2 cells are going to split, and those 4 cells are going to split, and that is eventually going to create your fetus, embryo, however you want to classify that. When Down syndrome forms in trisomy 21, that very first cell, sperm meets egg, that first cell has Down syndrome. It has that genetic material already in it. So each time that cell splits, it's already going to have those genetic markers, and that is called trisomy 21 Down syndrome. When sperm and egg come together and they are perfectly typical, first meet, there's nothing in there. There's no Down syndrome. There's no genetic material on that 21st chromosome. They split. Those cells split. Those cells split. Somewhere in those splits, that tiny piece of genetic material forms. Every cell that forms off that cell is going to have Down syndrome. The Central Mississippi Down Syndrome Society's webpage in 2021 talks about that as mosaic Down syndrome. That means only a percentage of that individual's genetic makeup is going to have Down syndrome. Those individuals typically have lessened symptoms. They might not have all the symptoms that someone with typical trisomy 21 have. When science has proven that there is no particular cause for Down syndrome, it literally is just a fluke that happens during cell division. It can happen to anyone, regardless of your age, your race, your upbringing, your financial status, and your genetic makeup. It just happens. With the exception of a type of Down syndrome called translocation Down syndrome. That type of Down syndrome is actually caused by a marker in the mother and the father that lives within them but does not cause them to have Down syndrome. But when you have a mother who carries that genetic material and a father that carries that genetic material, 100% of their children will have Down syndrome. They will not be able to produce a child who does not have it. If only one parent has it, there is a chance that you might not have a child with Down syndrome, but you might. Again, that is Medicine Line Plus tells us that that is called translocation Down syndrome. Some of the symptoms of Down syndrome that are present in every type of Down syndrome are shortened sternum. You may have a short sternum when you're born. You may have a little extra pad of fat at the back of your neck. The pinkies tend to curve in, the toes tend to curve in, and they have those beautiful almond-shaped eyes. If you have mosaic Down syndrome, you may not have every single symptom and marker for Down syndrome. With all 3 types of Down syndrome, however, there will be some type of cognitive delay. It could be very, very mild. It could be very, very severe. It's quite the spectrum of differences. On a personal note, when you meet someone with Down syndrome and they have, whether they have trisomy 21, mosaic Down syndrome, or translocation Down syndrome, please remember that as human beings, even if you have any type of Down syndrome, we are more alike than different. Thank you for listening.